Good afternoon and welcome to Match Day. I'm Vince and we have Ian and our special guest today, and I'm going to try to do the best I can, is Amin Hassanzadeh. And Amin is from Iran, and we'd like to thank all those that are watching today. Amin, yesterday, last minute, we asked him to come on in place of Don Rawson, who was supposed to come on today, but we moved him to next Tuesday. But Amin, thank you so much for coming on and just taking the time, right, of your busy day and busy life to come on and share 15 to 20 minutes with us. So thank you very much, Amin. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
So Amin will drop out and drop back in.
Yeah, so Amin, just close out of your browser and then click on that link I sent you and then try and come back in again.
Okay. So one of the nice things about having Amin on is I think it's only going to further our discussion about how global the game is and how American soccer, or US soccer particularly, relies on the international influences. So hopefully our Iranian friend is back in here and he can tell us about his story.
We'll see.
He was in high school in 1998 when Iran played the US in the World Cup. And we've already asked him a little bit about it off air. So if Alex wants to know about that, a few years before Alex was born, he can certainly ask Amin the question.
All right, Amin, do we have you?
I think so. I had you, but apparently
Amin, our apologies. It happens sometimes with this platform every now and again. So
no problem.
Thank you very much for joining us. I'm really excited to hear your journey. And we were talking, before you got on air, we're going to talk about more like your journey to coaching, not your journey in coaching. So
right.
I'm gonna like magnify you a little bit here. And I think Ian, you're gonna have to do that. Yep. So, but first off, Amin, thank you so much for coming on. And if you want, just tell us a little bit about your journey, and then we'll go from there. So thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Vincent. Thanks, Ian, for having me. I mean, I've been attending all the webinars with you guys since the lockdown, and I really enjoyed it. So thanks for having me. I don't think I am an interesting, I would say, guest for this big audience, but maybe there are my journey to coaching that I think it should be interesting for everyone to hear that. I'm still a junior coach, learning a lot from senior coaches like you and others in our clubs. But I think it's interesting to hear how people with different backgrounds get to coaching these days, and yeah, my journey is one of them. So I can start with 20 years ago, 30 years ago, as a kid, I started playing back in Iran, and it used to be different than these days that you pay for playing. We used to have tryouts, and if you are selected, you get compensation, and you play for clubs, semi-pro or amateur, whatever you want to call it. But it was a league in the city, in the province, and I played U17, U20, and U23, the standard FIFA ages. And the first time that I played U17, I was actually 14 years old, and the youngest one. And I think that meant a lot to me to compete with bigger people. Anyways, high school and then college. But when I got to master's, I studied computer engineering, and I was playing for the university team at that age. Unfortunately, I started having some back pains that for 12 years, doctors didn't really know what's the cause, and I didn't have a good diagnostic. So I couldn't play. I got to the point that I couldn't even run, honestly. And it was a horrible experience. And those days, I finished my master's. I used to teach in university, totally away from soccer, just watching. And I got to US to pursue my study in computer engineering. I got my degree in I got my PhD in computer engineering from Texas A&M. I taught there, and I got a job in DC area. I came to DC area, and the story was different. So I saw all these kids with uniforms, very well organized in the neighborhood. And I was like, oh, I didn't see that in the last 5 years in Texas. So there must be something more serious about soccer here. And it was. I started taking online classes, the USSF F license, then E, then D, then C, and national use. And I can say in the last 4 or 5 years, I have been attending all these classes and learning and shadowing coaches more than what normal coaches may do in 8 years, honestly, if not 10 years. And I think that's the key to make up for all those years that I couldn't do anything, which I usually say it took me back to the normal life, and it is a new excitement, an exciting thing to do every day, not only as a hobby but something that I grew up with. And I would say it also helped me my full-time job. I'm a research principal in Accenture. I do research in computer engineering.
Wow.
But getting to the field after work and running and making yourself tired and have a good sleep is what helps you be fresh next day at the job.
Now, very good. Thank you so much. Yeah, we've got Rob, who's presented on here a few times, and he's also, he also listens in quite a bit. He just said it'd be great for, it'd be great. Texas, or
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
We call it
Texas
A&M or TAM. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think he wants you to come to where he's at, right, which is in Missouri. So, but I think that's what he's trying to type here in the chat box. But so you played, you've grown up in Iran, and you came over here, right? So you had the language barrier, you had, right, just the culture and all that to kind of navigate through. What was like when you watch kids play, when you watched them play in Texas, right, and you were just kind of observing, what are some differences that you saw, just from Texas to when you were a kid in Iran?
So in Texas, we used to play in recreational center with most of, I would say, international people, and what we used to do was indoor, not futsal, with no line, right? You use wall, and honestly, we didn't have this in Iran, and most of people didn't like it. It was like you are cheating. And the game was very physical, maybe because I would say more Spanish people, and they are fast and strong, and it was not like the way we used to play. It was a little bit more technical the way we played, and using like fancy moves and dribbles. But when I got here, I mean, I want to get to the language barrier. Yes, for the first year or maybe first 2 years, I just tried to copy and just listen, because every single move had a name, and we didn't have this in Iran. You just do it, and you don't give it a name.
Yeah.
It's called Maradona.
Yeah.
Yes, but I used to do it when I was like 7, 8, and I just learned it from someone in the street. And here you have a name for it. You have a choreograph. You have, I don't know, different names here. Scissors, step over, and that was my first year to make sure that I understand every single term before I start talking. I would say, and that's when I copied a lot of coaches. Honestly, a lot of coaches. I used to attend, if I was assistant coach for one team, I would attend 2-3 different teams and just shadow coaches. That's why I said I spend more time than normal coaches.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot to learn.
Sure. No, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we had, I don't know if you remember, but quite a while back, we had a presentation on how to work with children who are just learning English, right? But here, now you're the coach, right? And here you got all these kids that speak English. So I can only imagine the challenge that you faced. Not only that, but you're holding down a job, right? You're married, you're right, and all that. And my goodness, I mean, your English is wonderful. So I couldn't
Thank you.
couldn't even imagine
Thank you.
going over to Iran and speaking Farsi or and all that. But thank you all very much, Coach Barker. I'll turn it over to you. But I've got quite a few other things I want to ask him. Maybe at the end. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, we've got young Alex on the show, and he might be really interested about Asian soccer because Iran is an Asian soccer nation. So I was just on Wikipedia here, and interestingly, out of Asia, South Korea is the most successful country in terms of going to World Cups. Yes. And then after that, Japan, which kind of makes sense. And they, of course, both hosted in 2002. Then you see Australia, which is kind of interesting because they used to be in Oceania with New Zealand and Tahiti. But then after that, the next most successful countries are Saudi Arabia and Iran, which actually surprises me a little bit that your country's been so successful in the Asia Cup and then qualifying for World Cups. So when you came here and you began coaching and meeting people around the game, did many of them have any idea about what soccer was like in Iran and how proud your country's history is at international level?
Okay, I'm glad you asked this because there's something very interesting which is I was thinking about that. I was like, hopefully I can remember to mention that. So in the clubs that I coached, in one club I was the only Iranian one, but in the other one we were like 7 Iranians. And you may know Coach Matt Badi. He's one of the
very well.
Yep.
Yeah, and we have 3 people, which I had the honor to assist on one of them. He played in World Cup 2006 as our second goalkeeper, and he's already here, Coach Vahid, and Coach Sean or Shariar and Yassi. These are like my role models when I grew up. They were and now I have the pleasure of working with them. And yes, the clubs know Iranian coaches very well, and especially in this area, DC area, there are a couple of clubs, and the good players that I grew up and I knew them at that time. Some of them are already here coaching, which is amazing. Yeah.
Well, and Vince and I know Matt very well because he works with Virginia Youth Soccer, and Matt and I actually took a coaching course together in Germany. So he and I have been quite close. I'll just share one more quick story about Iran's influence in this country, and then I'll turn it back to Vince. In the '98 World Cup, our American representative for the referees was Essie Bahamas, who is Iranian American, and I've met Essie a couple of times. A very nice guy.
Yeah.
The famous story about him at the World Cup was he gave a penalty against Brazil to Norway, and they didn't have all.
And it turned out to be.
Yeah,
correct.
They didn't have all the TV angles, so for a couple of days, everybody thought the Iranian American referee was very poor, and then they found a photograph, and he was vindicated, and they said he actually got the call right. So
yes,
and then Essie went on to be in charge of referees in this country for a while. So there are influences of Iranian football all the way through U.S. soccer, not just at the youth level, for sure.
Yes, I read an article recently. I mean, it was an interview with him that he was like, that was the best moment of my career because he found that photograph that saved his life. Yeah, and I took my national youth with Coach Matt.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
No, that's good. So, yeah, so 1998, you were in high school.
Yeah, the last year in high school.
Oh,
Yes.
so you're a senior. And yeah, it was called the Mother of All Games. I don't know if you remember
Yes.
that, right? And it was the most politically charged game ever in a World Cup.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you guys came out top. I remember, I'll never forget Casey Keller sprawling out and just missing the goal, right? Phenomenal goal. So how'd that feel? And just, it's okay to be honest.
Sure. No, to be honest, for years, I would say most of Iranian didn't know that what was happening on the stage with the fans, because I think they were asked not to show that. Even during the game, there was nothing about the fans, and I think FIFA had a good coverage of that game, which was focused on the game only. But later, I really saw those footages that, oh, it was different. And so what I want to say, for us, it was just exciting because we went to World Cup with a big drama. We lost to Japan, and Japan made their first World Cup before being the host. It was very important for them. If they couldn't make it next World Cup 2002, they were the host without having any experience in the World Cup.
Right.
So we lost to them, and we became the only country from AFC that had to play with Australia at that time, who was not part of AFC, and we were 2-0 down, and then we had a good comeback. So it was very exciting just to be in the World Cup. And for us, I told you that Mihailovic from Yugoslavia said that he's gonna become the best scorer just from the game with Iran, and when he couldn't score, that was a win for us. And we lost to them with just one free kick. With US, I think US was not in their best, I would say, situation. You can't compare that US with 94 or even 2014. But we had the golden age. Four of them became the best players of AFC in their career, and that was a different team. And our coach Ivic was fired because they lost to friendly games to AC Milan and AS Roma and I think Inter Milan. It was a friendly game, and it was just to prepare for the World Cup. Anyways, all this story made it like a drama for us, and scoring after 20 years in the World Cup against US, and it was a big thing. For us, to be honest, it was nothing more than just soccer, for me at least, and I'm sure for many, because it by itself, the soccer story of it has a lot for us.
Sure.
And of course, winning the first game in the World Cup ever was a big deal. So all these things made it like it was a history for us.
No, it's similar, to our miracle on ice, right, for hockey. When we beat the Russians and all that. But no,
in that world, I'm just looking it up here. In that World Cup, you lost to Yugoslavia 1-0, and you lost to Germany 2-0, both top nations. So a very credible showing for Iran, for sure. And then they've been back at least 2 or 3 times since, right?
Yeah, we were there 2006, that I said about this coach that I am assisting. We were in 2014 and 2018. 14 was the game with Argentina, if you remember, and Messi, that is now in all the books that I'm reading, the soccer tactics and all these things. It's everyone is saying how one player can change the whole tactic. In Ray Power game book, I read that chapter. And then 2018 against Spain and Portugal. So that's these 2 World Cups, we were playing logical, I would say, and that one was like a spiritual game. That it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
I have one quick question, I mean, and then I'll let Vince wrap. You're currently coaching, you said, a 17 boys and a 14 boys, is that right?
Yeah.
And you don't have your own kids on the team yet, so they're other people's kids. As a obviously a well-educated, well-spoken man, what are the challenges? What kind of different challenges do the 14-year-old boys present as opposed to the 17-year-olds, right? Because the 17-year-olds, maybe they're driving, maybe they have SATs, ACTs, they have romantic lives and maybe jobs, and the 14-year-olds. So tell me a little bit about what ages you enjoy coaching.
Sure, and I would like to add U9 girls last year to like a big, I mean, 2 extremes, yeah. So I could connect with U9 and U12 better than U17.
Interesting.
Sorry, yeah, U18 and 19, and I think the reason is not probably the language. It's probably more like what are they excited about, and I can have conversation with U9 and U12, U13 about the game and some other stuff like making jokes. But with U19, it's a different, I would say, environment. That's the same reason that I didn't continue teaching in US. I was a very good. I don't want to say that, but it was the most exciting job for me. I was very passionate about it to teach in university in college. And when I came to US and I had 1 year in Texas A&M, I felt like the environment that I could create with Farsi, speaking Farsi, is not there to do it with English. And if you cannot add fun or other things to your environment, it's gonna be a boring class. I believe it's same with U19 right now, which is much better than 5 years ago when I taught in Texas A&M. But I'm sure the language and my knowledge about what's going on in US is much more, but still there are things, as you said, that in this age I was not here. I grew up somewhere else with a different culture, and it takes time for me to learn those things, to have a better connection with them. The good thing is I focus on tactics. This is something that they should like if they are there, and that's when I can make connections, and for that I spend more time in reading books and taking classes to make sure that I have something new. I'm not copying what they have learned from U9.
Right.
Thank you, appreciate it.
No, that's great. And so in this time, right, in COVID, I mean, are you staying connected with your kids, with your teams? Or are you?
Yeah, so we actually went back to field since 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, during the time that it was completely off, and we could not go to the field. We had Zoom meetings, having more like cover type of sessions with them, and making them active and excited about the game. And we actually did a game analysis with U12 team, and they liked it. They were passionate about it, to look at the screen and mark up the spots on the field and talk about it. I found it very interesting. I didn't expect them, and that was with the Spanish club.
Well, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, with Villarreal, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. So thank you. Yeah, no, I was just curious, how you got along, right, in Washington, D.C., during all this. Because, I know how in Indiana, where, our challenges are different from yours, and, in California and all that. But no, first off, you've given us more time than we've asked you to do. So thank you.
Thanks.
Your story is fascinating. I could talk to you more. I mean, I first got introduced to Iran as a country through the New York Cosmos, because they used to have a player by the name of Eskandarian. And
yes, Andrenic.
Yes, Eskandarian, and
he was our best player in '78 World Cup.
78 World Cup, yeah, and then I think Araj, was it Donifard?
Arash Donifard, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Donifard. That was close.
Well, the good thing is these players played for my favorite team, Istiklal in Iran.
Okay.
And yeah,
because I think he was the first. Because I thought he played for, like, was it the Earthquakes, or he played for some team, I thought, in the NASL too. I can't remember, but anyway, I remember those two. And I'm like, oh,
I'm too young for that. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Thank you very little. No, we're good. But no, thank you so much. This has been really insightful, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey and everything, and appreciate you even watching us, daily. But and thank you. And if we can be of any help to you, please let us know. But go ahead, Coach Barker, wrap it up, and then thank you again, Amin, so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Amin. So we have a day off tomorrow, Vince, you and I, but we come back on Thursday with
Coach Mike Freitag from Colorado.
Oh, okay, so Mike Freitag is the part of the state director technical group for Colorado. So they have their return to play issues. And Mike was the head coach of Indiana University. He succeeded Jerry, right? Vince, is that correct?
Yeah, that is
so
correct.
Mike was the longtime assistant to Coach Yeagley, and then succeeded Coach Yeagley, and then right after that is now the new Coach Yeagley, Todd. So Mike has got great college experience. He's an instructor, national youth license. So please, our loyal friends, come and listen to Mike, and please feel free to invite other people. This recording will go up online later on this afternoon. So if you've got parents and coaches and players that would be interested in how multicultural our sport is and the influences of English people and Iranian people, Amin's story, I think, is very interesting, but it's not uncommon. There's lots of stories like this in America, and you've got a PhD who as much as he likes earning money, will coach soccer, which doesn't pay as much money, I'm sure. So, Amin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Bye, guys. Everybody have a great day. Stay safe.